Indeed, yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. And so I'm Juho from SEM CCUS. I'll tell you about what this mysterious SEM CCUS is. Accelerating carbon management globally, smooth sailing, question mark. I think you can probably figure out that it's not smooth sailing. Question mark is a bit of a rhetorical question, but however, there are positive developments that are happening, which we all know of, and I think that deserve to be presented, and where we can find positive loops that we can reinforce, and therefore make this a little bit smoother sailing as we go along. I'm also here for the first time. I think some of you are veterans to the OpenForum, and I'm arriving here yesterday. I can understand why. So I'm looking forward to an invite next year as well. These are the 3 points I want to go through: SEM and SEM CCUS, who we are, then this piece on smooth sailing, and that I would take through a number of actually 6 agenda items that are from our work in SEM CCUS, from global policymaker circles, that we work on and that can make our life a little bit smoother going forward, and then a really quick summary at the end. So the Clean Energy Ministerial, this is an independent global process to accelerate clean energy deployment, not dependent on OECD, not on UN or anything else, G20. It's an independent process where actually now 30 full member countries from around the world collaborate to accelerate. 80% of global clean energy investment is within these countries, but also 3/4 of the emissions. So it's a very relevant partnership. It works through yearly ministerial meetings that a member country or region each time hosts, and then 29 work streams across different types of clean energy issues, different sectors, also cross-cutting. And CCUS is one of them. And on the right-hand side, you see a picture from our last year's ministerial that was hosted in Korea. And then there is here, does this work that way? No. The logo of our presidency, if you like, this year, that is Saudi Arabia. cleanenergyministerial.org, you can find out more. The CCUS initiative then is just one of those 29, and I just wanted to put this up so you can get a sense of who is in it. All the flags, the 17 members on the left-hand side, you see many countries and regions that are leaders, some who are following, and some who are only getting started. But that's the beauty of this collaboration, that you bring knowledge from those who have it to those who need it. Membership is through government. And then we have partners, IEA Greenhouse Gas Program, Global CCS Institute, OGCI, GCCA, GA, all these acronyms. I'll talk about a few of them as we go along. But we organize dialogue and discussion with a number of stakeholder and industry groups. I won't go through this. And so the bit on smooth sailing and those key agenda items. I think smooth sailing looks something like this. Is it smooth sailing? Well, not always. I think it's much more like sort of a rough seas in many cases when we develop CCUS. However, as I said, there's a lot of positive development in various areas, and positive loops that can be found and can be reinforced. So the 6 points I wanted to just briefly touch upon were these. So policy for CCUS, the why and the how, risk sharing, finance sector and finance sector confidence, positive narratives, removals, and then knowledge sharing and people, which is the most important thing. So policy, impossible to give in a few minutes like an outline of everything that is happening, but I think what we can say, judging from our member governments and member countries' developments, that sort of tailored approaches are starting to bear fruit in terms of projects being brought to life. And there's different examples. They're all a bit different. We've got 45Q tax credits in the US. We all know that story. Hefty, a lot of money on the table, and those who are eligible can all actually access it. A very different way of doing it in the UK, a sort of highly government-led set of complex business models with different support mechanisms, and sort of highly designed, and also starting to bear fruit. Norway also a key model, government as sort of central enabler, providing a large-scale transport and storage infrastructure piece, and also operational support. And we've heard about the various support systems and policies available also from the EU, and the various national advancements also in European countries. So these are starting to bear fruit. Some of the success factors in policies can be identified. They're not present necessarily in all of them, but I think there's parts of them in all of the systems that are delivering the policy longevity, that investors can trust that these actually will go on for a relevant number of years, providing revenue certainty, access to infrastructure and storage, some clarity on long-term liability, very importantly, the cross-chain risk management, and so forth. Importantly also, stakeholder involvement. You can't just regulate this in a vacuum. Stakeholders, industry, others will need to be involved. Now, I added this slide yesterday just to highlight. I mean, we're often wondering that what's now happening in the US. And I'm not speaking here on behalf of the US in any way, but certainly the CCS is not dead. Aspects of the things that we've known are still there. 45Q is still there. We've got over 100 pending Class 6 well applications, permit applications in the pipeline, covering over 400 individual wells. Last year, 12 states passed 24 different carbon management laws. So things are happening, so I think we need to try to go beyond what the political discourse and political policy on discussion we hear, and see what's under the hood, and I think there's a difference there, and that's good. Obviously, we cannot like what the from CCS perspective, what the current administration is advancing. But let's just keep this in mind, that it's moving ahead, and there's projects coming to life. Second point was on risk sharing. This is a piece of this area of work that CCUS has been quite actively doing in the past 2 years now, working together with the Geneva Association. I don't know if you know it. It's a global group of insurance firms, CEO-led, and they are very interested in decarbonization and in insurance aspects of various energy technologies, and including also CCUS. And we've worked also with OGCI. What we've been doing is first of all, trying to identify the types of risks that are present across the value chain, from technology to safety and operational, financial risks, regulatory risks, and also the unique piece for CCUS, which is the integration or the cross-chain risk, where all pieces in the puzzle, all pieces in that value chain impact each other. And then we've been doing clarification on what the risks are in each of the projects, or archetypes of projects, and who owns them, who's responsible. Is it one actor, or is it something that is shared? And then, of course, what kind of mitigation tools can be used, and by whom, to mitigate these risks. And insurance sector can really play a key role. This is what we've really learned in the past two years. So I think we should really be bringing them on board from an early stage. They've got a special interest in all aspects of permanence and safety, integrity of geologic storage, an area where CO2 GeoNet can make a great contribution. I think there's been a session on insurance already in the forum, but I think that's something that you should continue. And then, of course, the complex value chain risks, which is interesting from the insurance sector perspective. So, solving risk sharing, a key issue. And if you have policy in place, and if you have risk sharing mechanisms, well, then you can maybe tap into some finance. And this is also an area where we have worked with banks, several dozen different banks in a particular group that we run. over several years now. And good news is that increasing numbers of banks and finance institutions are really getting active. Getting active can mean a lot of things, from wanting to find out more to actually providing debt finance. And their requirements, we've learned, are not mysterious. It's having the predictable revenue streams for projects, having those risk-sharing mechanisms in place, workable framework conditions on regulation, including long-term liability also. And then, of course, the sponsor or project proponent quality, the experience and the solid industrial skill set that they need to have. The IEA figure there on the right-hand side, they put out a paper a couple of months ago now. $16 billion of debt funding has been raised in the past 2 years. So that has started from literally zero, I think, before that. And now, and that's what's interesting. You can build CO2 and CCS and CCUS if you're really rich out of your own pocket. But what's really interesting is when do the lenders come in? And now we're starting to see that, which is good. I'll forge ahead. Then, positive narrative, another area that our members are quite keen to discuss these days. A narrative, not just communication. It's just not just putting out a press release or something. It really goes back to those to why we're doing it, why a government wants to do CCS. Of course, we know that the awareness in general amongst the public is very low, and if there is any kind of tends to be flavored by framings like this is keeping fossil fuels alive or this sounds really unsafe, and of course that's catastrophically limiting and incomplete because you got all these other benefits that we can bring from CCUS. And there's a role for all stakeholders to play in this. From the government's perspective, 3 areas that we're looking at is, of course, explaining the role that CCS and CCUS and also CDR play in the decarbonization portfolio, then regulatory frameworks that they ensure safety and integrity of storage, and being seen as, and not seeing, but really disseminating impartial information on pros and cons. Okay, good, we forge ahead. Our small piece in showcasing, we have Carbon Management Project Awards that we're doing together with Mission Innovation CDR Mission. Come talk to me if you want to put your project forward. Submission deadline 7th of June. Removals, okay here as well. Both reduction and avoidance and removals are necessary. We know that, and so it's not whether we need CDR, but how much, what type, and when. Our members in many cases are seeing the need to include CDR in carbon management strategies, policy packages, and thinking there about using synergies between CCUS and CDR, the capture technologies, transport, and the build-out of our storage infrastructure. In some ways, a question also is that, to the other way, that can CCUS somehow learn from the CDR voluntary market logics? Looking at the CDR discussion, a lot of it has been dominated by companies actually wanting themselves to buy credits. Well, why could we have something similar for CCS? And maybe that Google and low carbon infrastructure deal from end of last year could be a first example. And finally, knowledge sharing and people, and there's heaps to build on. Global networks to share information on CCUS are really great. You see some of them on the right-hand side, but that's not all. CO2 GeoNet logo there as well. Many stakeholders involved and significant body of technical, non-technical business finance work is available. But I think going forward here we have to concentrate on people and skills and institutions. How do we set those policy and regulatory frameworks? The regulatory culture and implementation. It was already mentioned earlier today that the regulators need to have the capacity and skills to regulate also in the EU context. If you want everything to happen within 18 months, you need to have regulators that can actually do it. Sharing information on public engagement approaches. Skills, perhaps there could be more secondment programs between projects and between governments to bring skilled people together. And of course, the future workforce, so important, so having academic programs that take up carbon management topics. And I'll move forward. Here's just a selection of elements of an acceleration agenda. I won't go through them, they're quite self-evident, and they take from those earlier 6 points. Collaborating to accelerate CO2 storage development is one of the key points, and that's where I finish. Thank you.